For the first time, the UN Security Council has adopted a resolution calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. Chinese involvement in 2 cyber attacks in the United Kingdom was confirmed by the Deputy Prime Minister. For the first time in 6 months of war, the UN Security Council has adopted a resolution calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. 14 countries voted in favor, with the US abstaining for the first time. Following the decision, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu cancelled a high-level visit to Washington.
Number one, it's a non-binding resolution, so there's no impact at all on Israel and Israel's ability to continue to go after Hamas. Number two, as I said in my opening statement, it does not represent a change at all in our policy.
Israel says it has no moral right to stop the war, while there are still hostages held in Gaza, criticizing the ceasefire resolution.
134 people hostage on Gaza in the hand of the Hamas, the terrorist group. All the world should know and remember, 6 months almost passed, and the world is silent.
In the central Gaza Strip, the response from people was immediate, with many rejecting the UN's resolution and demanding a permanent ceasefire instead.
بدناش وقف اطلاق النار يكون مؤقت، ما لم يكن موقف اطلاق النار كامل ثابت دائم مش لازم. احنا بدنا اليوم نوقف وبكره نعاود نرجع للصواريخ والدمار والقتل، ما بينفعش الكلام هذا. غير مقبول هذا الكلام.
Meanwhile, Palestinians in Deir al-Balah are mourning dozens of victims of Israeli strikes in the area overnight, whilst experts project that northern Gaza will face famine in the coming weeks.
Emergency rescue operations have finished in Kyiv after a Russian missile strike, Ukraine's emergency services reported. 10 people in total were injured due to the shelling, including a teenage girl. 2 victims were hospitalized, while 25 people are receiving psychological care. The missile attack affected Kyiv, destroying parts of the Academy Decorative and Applied Arts and Design building.
Просто повезло, що там якраз стіна, і перемичка дуже сильна, і що вони просто вікна постраждали, але діти залишилися живі.
Пані та панове.
Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky was in Kyiv taking part in a ceremony marking Ramadan, joined by military personnel who practice Islam.
Тим більше єдність. Ми в Україні бажаємо усім, хто цінує життя, справжнього захисту, бажаємо чесного миру усім народам, чий дім руйнує війна. Бажаємо справедливості нашій державі, Україні та усім іншим народам. І хай наша єдність буде незмінною.
Zelensky's appearance comes as Moscow intensifies its aerial bombardment of Ukrainian cities, launching missiles against Kyiv for the 3rd time in 5 days.
The Baltic states have marked the 75th anniversary of Soviet mass deportation to Siberia. Latvia mourned some 42,000 people who were deported to the eastern Russian province in cattle wagons. Newborn babies, small children and elderly, many who never saw Latvia again.
Manam brālītim bija tikai 8 mēneši. Viņš bija slims tajā laikā plaušu karsoni. Bet tomēr, kā saka, izsūtīja mammu un tēti, un viņš izdzīvoja. Es piedzimu tur. Man māsiņa būtu 2 gadu vecāka, tur dzim 2 mēneši nodzīvoja un mīri palika Krievijā. Es, protams, nekā neatceros, jo man bija 1,5 gadiņa, kad braucu mājās.
Šodien mēs arī sakam ļoti skaidri gan sev, gan pasaulē, ka ar ļaunumu nevar sarunāt. Ar ļaunumu nevar vienoties, un ar ļaunumu nevar noslēgt mieru. Ļaunumu var tikai uzvarēt, pret ļaunumu ir jācīnās.
Estonia also remembered the 4-day wave of deportation, the most aggressive act against Estonians by the Soviet Union. 20,700 people were arrested and put into cattle cars bound for Siberia. Hundreds, even thousands of people were later sent after them, making up a total of 3% of the Estonian population. State-affiliated Chinese actors were involved in 2 cyber attacks in the United Kingdom, according to the country's Deputy Prime Minister. Oliver Dowden confirmed Chinese involvement during a speech in the UK Parliament.
I can confirm today that Chinese state-affiliated actors were responsible for 2 malicious cyber campaigns targeting both our democratic institutions and parliamentarians. A number of our international partners, including the United States, will be issuing similar statements to expose this activity and to hold China to account for the ongoing patterns of hostile activity targeting our collective democracies.
Earlier, former British Conservative Party leader Sir Ian Duncan Smith urged the government to label China a threat rather than a challenge. Responding to the reports, China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs said countries should base their claims on evidence rather than smear others with factual basis.
A court in Moscow has extended the detention of Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich until the 30th of June. He is being held on spying charges following his arrest in the city of Yekaterinburg in late March last year. The 32-year-old journalist denies the charges, and the US ambassador, who was in court for the latest hearing, says the allegations are categorically untrue. Prosecutors involved in the case have yet to reveal what, if any, evidence they have to support their claims.
There has been an outpouring of support for Real Madrid player Vinicius Jr in Spain after he broke down in tears at a press conference while discussing racist abuse. Vinicius Jr has been the target of verbal abuse on several occasions since joining the club in 2018. The player said he would not leave the Spanish league, but that more and more he was losing the desire to play. Doctors are reporting that there has been an increase of nasal surgeries due to cocaine usage in Belgium. Since the end of lockdown, more and more people are coming into surgeries with serious lesions in their nose.
C'est à la fois une destruction muqueuse, mais aussi cartilagineuse. Donc, sur les cartilages de la cloison nasale qui sont atteints, ainsi que les structures internes. Et si vous voulez, cette atteinte cartilagineuse va entraîner un affaissement de la pyramide nasale.
Cocaine causes vasoconstriction, where blood vessels in the nose contract and blood can no longer reach the nose. When the nasal septum is completely destroyed, doctors can offer the patient rhinoplasty.
Ce sont des patients relativement jeunes, petite quarantaine d'années, parfois un peu plus, avec des situations socio-économiques et socio-professionnelles plutôt favorisées. Ce sont des cadres, ou ce sont éventuellement des enseignants, ou ce sont des gens qui travaillent dans le milieu bancaire.
Doctors believe the increasing number of issues is due to increased cocaine usage. Brussels and Belgium have seen an uptick in drug-related violence this past year, with the federal police dedicating nearly 25% of its investigation capacity to drug-related cases.
Turkish authorities have detained 40 suspected Islamic State militants following the terror attack on Moscow City Hall on Friday, which killed at least 137 people. More than 2,900 people have been arrested in Turkey on suspicion of belonging to the jihadist group since the 1st of June 2023. After the attack in Moscow, Italy joined France in raising its alert level against terrorist attacks for Holy Week. Italy was already on high alert following the October 7th attacks by Hamas in Israel. On Monday in Venice, security protocols were triggered when 2 bags were found in the street, but their owners ended up arriving before the bomb squad. As the terrorism threat looms large, especially in Europe, France will tighten its security in the lead up to the Paris Olympic Games in the summer. According to President Emmanuel Macron, Islamic State has already made several failed attempts at attacks on French soil, with 2 attacks prevented already just this year. Terrorist threat levels remain high in Germany, with Berlin on high alert ahead of the European Football Championships in less than 3 months' time. Spain's National Security Council, in its latest anti-terrorism report, warned the EU faces direct risk of violent Islamic extremism as the wars in Gaza and Ukraine continue.
German Vice-Chancellor and Minister of Economy and Climate, Robert Habeck, warned that Europe must ramp up defence spending during a global conversation with Euronews.
Man hat nicht gesehen oder man wollte es nicht sehen, was Putin treibt, wie stark dort seine Armeen aufbaut. Ich möchte nicht gerne Geld für Armeen und Rüstung ausgeben. Ich kann mir das besser vorstellen für Bildung, für Forschung, für Weiterbildung, für Klimaschutz, für Nachhaltigkeitskriterien. Aber wir müssen es tun. Die Zeit, wo man es nicht möchte, ist vorbei. Deswegen müssen wir die Militärausgaben erhöhen, um uns schützen zu können, auch eine eigene europäische Schutzgarantie geben zu können, nicht nur die Amerikaner als Garant sehen, sondern wir müssen da selber wehrfähiger werden. Und das fällt mir nicht leicht zu sagen. Die Rüstungsausgaben sind in den letzten 2 Jahren gestiegen, weil wir die Ukraine so stark unterstützt haben. Sie müssen meiner Ansicht nach aber verstetigt werden, auch für, man muss ja schon fast sagen, die Instandsetzung der europäischen und jedenfalls der deutschen Armee, um ein bisschen was zu können.